HOA Karen poured chemicals in Park Garden, fined $200,000 and replanted. The air was thick with the scent of blooming roses and fresh mulch that sunny Saturday when the first scream sliced through the park. "Who did this?" bellowed Maria, a retiree who'd spent years tending the community garden. Her trembling hands clutched a wilted dahlia, its vibrant red petals now shriveled to a sickly brown. The garden was the pride of Willow Creek, a small town where neighbors gathered to plant, laugh, and share stories under the shade of ancient oaks. For 5 years, it had been a sanctuary, a patchwork of marigolds, lavender, and sunflowers cultivated by volunteers who poured their hearts into every root. Maria, a grandmother with soil-stained gloves, had led the charge, her infectious smile drawing in everyone from kids to seniors. But that morning, the garden was a graveyard. Entire beds of flowers lay dead, their stems drooping like broken promises, the soil reeking of bleach and something far more sinister. Whispers spread like wildfire as the crowd grew. "It's ruined," cried Jamal, a high schooler who'd spent his summers weeding. "The vegetables. Too, look at the tomatoes. The once plump heirlooms were now blackened husks. Their vines collapsed in defeat. The devastation wasn't natural. It was deliberate. Someone had poisoned the garden." By noon, the park was a buzzing hive of outrage. Volunteers combed the soil for clues, their hands shaking with fury and grief. That's when Maria found an empty jug of industrial herbicide tucked behind a bench, its label peeling but unmistakable. The chemical was banned for home use, meant for clearing construction sites, not delicate ecosystems. "Who would do this?" she whispered, her voice cracking. The answer came faster than anyone expected. Across the street, Karen Walsh stood on her pristine lawn, arms crossed, watching the chaos with a smirk that could curdle milk. Karen, a newcomer to Willow Creek, had made no secret of her disdain for the garden. "It's an eyesore," she'd complained at town meetings, her voice dripping with condescension. "Those weeds attract bugs, and the noise, ugh, all that digging and chattering ruins my peace." Her manicured nails and designer sunglasses screamed entitlement, and her complaints had only grown louder since moving into the house overlooking the park. Maria's eyes narrowed as she spotted Karen. "You," she said, marching across the street, the herbicide jug in hand. The crowd followed, their murmurs turning to shouts. "Did you do this?" Karen Maria demanded, holding up the jug like evidence in a courtroom. Karen didn't flinch. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, her tone icy. "But maybe if you kept your little hobby under control, this wouldn't have happened." The accusation lit a fuse. Jamal stepped forward, his voice shaking. "You've been whining about the garden for months. You said you'd take care of it last week." Karen rolled her eyes. "Prove it, kid. You can't just accuse people without evidence." But her smugness faltered when Old Man Carter, the town's unofficial historian, shuffled forward, holding his phone. "I got proof," he said gruffly. "Caught her on my porch cam last night, sneaking into the park with that jug." The crowd erupted. "You poisoned our garden," screamed Lila, a single mom who'd planted carrots with her daughter every spring. Karen's face twitched, but she doubled down. "So what if I did? That patch of dirt was a mess. I did this town a favor." Her words were gasoline on a fire. Maria lunged forward, only stopped by Jamal's quick grip on her arm. "You destroyed our work, our memories." Maria sobbed. "My grandson planted those roses for his mother before she passed. You had no right." Karen's smirk vanished as the crowd's anger swelled. She hadn't expected this, a community united not just in grief but in fury. "Still," she scoffed, "cry all you want. It's just plants. You'll get over it." Her arrogance was a match struck in a dry forest, and the blaze of resentment was only beginning to burn. As days passed, the town's outrage didn't fade, it grew. The garden wasn't just plants. It was a symbol of their unity, their sweat, their love. Karen's act wasn't just vandalism, it was a personal attack. The volunteers banded together, determined to uncover the full extent of her sabotage. They tested the soil, and the results were damning. The herbicide had seeped deep, rendering the ground toxic for years. The vegetable, meant for the local food bank, were unsalvageable. The flowers, grown for school fundraisers, were gone. The damage was estimated at $50,000, but the emotional toll was priceless. Then came the twist no one saw coming. At the next town meeting, a shy voice piped up from the back. It was Ellie, a quiet teenager who worked at the local hardware store. I sold her the herbicide, she admitted, her cheeks flushed with guilt. She told me it was for her driveway, but I saw her carrying 2 jugs. Not one. I didn't think. Her voice broke, and she buried her face in her hands. The room went silent. Ellie's confession shifted the narrative Karen hadn't acted on impulse. She'd planned this, buying enough poison to ensure the garden's total destruction. Ellie's words were a spark that reignited the town's resolve. They filed a formal complaint with the police, who launched an investigation. The evidence piled up Carter's video, Ellie's testimony, and receipts from the hardware store showing Karen's purchase of not 1 but 3 jugs of the banned chemical. The case was airtight, and Karen's lies began to crumble. The confrontation came at the county courthouse, a gray building packed with townsfolk who turned out to see justice served. Karen, dressed in a crisp blazer, strode in with a lawyer who looked like he charged by the minute. She maintained her innocence, claiming she'd only sprayed a little to clean up the garden. But the prosecutor was relentless, presenting soil tests, witness statements, and Carter's grainy footage of Karen skulking through the park at midnight, pouring poison like a villain in a twisted fairy tale. The courtroom was electric with tension. Maria took the stand, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. "That garden was our heart," she said. "It wasn't just plants. It was where we grieved, where we hoped, where we built something together. She took that from us." Jamal spoke next, his anger raw. "I worked there to honor my dad, who loved growing things. She didn't just kill plants, she killed memories." Even Ellie, still racked with guilt, testified, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't know what she'd do, but I should have asked more questions. I'm so sorry." Karen's lawyer tried to spin it, claiming she was a concerned citizen acting out of frustration. But the judge wasn't buying it. "Ms. Walsh," he said, his voice like gravel, "your actions were calculated, malicious, and devastating to this community. You've shown no remorse." The gavel came down with a thud, a $200,000 fine for environmental damage and vandalism, plus a court order to fund the garden's restoration. Gasps rippled through the room. Karen's face went pale, her confidence shattered like glass. But the town wasn't done. Outside the courthouse, Maria and the volunteers stood united, holding signs that read, "Replant our future and justice for Willow Creek." They'd already started fundraising to detoxify the soil, but Karen's punishment felt like a victory. She was forced to watch as the community rallied, stronger than ever, to rebuild what she'd destroyed. Local businesses donated supplies, kids painted new signs, and even Ellie found redemption, leading a youth group to plant seedlings. Karen, meanwhile, became a pariah. Her neighbors shunned her, her social media filled with scorn. She tried to sell her house, but who'd buy from the woman who poisoned a town's heart? The final blow came when the garden bloomed again, more vibrant than before, with a new sign, "Willow Creek Garden grown from love, not hate." Karen drove by one day, her face a mask of bitterness, and saw Maria laughing with Jamal as they planted sunflowers. The sight was a dagger proof that her cruelty had failed to break them. The garden's revival wasn't just a win, it was a lesson. It showed that even the most heartless acts could be overcome by people who cared. The volunteers didn't just replant flowers, they replanted hope, proving that community could outlast cruelty. And Karen, she was left with a fine she'd pay for years and a legacy of shame she'd never outrun. What do you think was justice served? Or should Karen have faced more? Share your thoughts below.